Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us on the December RDC meeting for 2019. We'll be getting started. It's 7 o'clock. We're running a little bit behind, but we have a fairly short agenda for tonight. We will start with the call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is roll call. Please let the record show that Jason and Dr. Taylor are excused. The next item are approval of minutes from our October meeting. Have the commissioners here been able to review? Okay.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I will second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nope. All passed. Okay. Next item is old business. Seeing none, I don't believe any of the commissioners have any other items. Okay. And the next item is new business, which is what we're here for. There is a historic facade grant program review, and it's in discussion for some adjustments to the language of the grant program. Mr. Mayor?
Good evening, Commission. I'm here tonight in place of Derek Warren. He couldn't be here, but he wanted to let you know we heard your feedback throughout discussions as we've been through these first year or so of the facade grant program, really working out the kinks and really kind of getting a great response. We want to make sure we have the right parameters and make sure we're applicating or applying this program in what you guys want to see. So really we're talking about two changes tonight. One is concerning the roofing projects. We've had a couple of projects in the past where it's been strictly just a roofing project, and some members of the commission expressed concern that we're using a facade program to help the roofing. Now, from the historic preservation side, preserving the roof is part of the building, and without a good roof, you will lose the building eventually. So we do see value in trying to help improve that. What we have tonight here proposed for you tonight is a 30% versus where it's not eligible for 100% cost coverage. It's down to a 30%. So if it's strictly just a roof repair or overlay, approved overlay from the HPC, it's just a 30% grant on that. So it does kind of help incentivize the property owner to preserve the roof, but also he's not essentially buying a new roof for property owner. The second one is really just kind of a clarification. The way we've been administering the facade program is that the grant is tied to the building, not necessarily the owner. So for example, if we had an owner apply for a grant, receive the funds, and then they subsequently sold the building, and another owner came in and applied, we're essentially starting from where the previous owner left off. So if the first person did $25,000, the next person doing another $50,000, they don't essentially start back at zero. So they'd start from that 25 and build up the brackets. So I know there were some concerns of, how are we, we don't want to make sure someone comes in, does a smaller project, get a large share, sell the building, and then someone else can come in and ask, and they get more money up front again, just the way our project is structured. So just kind of clarifying the way we've been administering it, that's kind of how we read it, is that it's the grant is tied to the building, not necessarily the owner per se. So those are the two changes proposed, and if there's any questions, I have to answer them.
Go ahead, Sierra.
So I know specifically, me personally, I feel that some language, this is just my personal, I don't reflect everyone's opinions on the RDC, but I feel like in my opinion, we should have some kind of clause in there so to deter people from wanting to come in, flip a building, and make a profit from the city's money. I think it's great that people want to come in and fix up our buildings and make them nicer, but it's just my personal opinion. We want to keep the money within the city. I don't know if everyone else has an opinion on the matter, or
I know I'm torn between the two because I can see both sides. I guess to further the question is, would there be a way to have potentially an appraisal done on what the building would be with or without that project? And if it increases the value of that building, then yeah, maybe an owner does leave and technically pockets that profit. However, if it's an appraisal that increases and we can prove that the TIF district is to benefit from it,
Yeah.
then maybe,
So the way I view it, and I think the way Derek views it, and the way we've kind of tried to think about this project is that we are not necessarily incentivizing the owner, or trying to incentivize the building. Yes, at the end of the day, the owner is the one that has to make the investments in the building. You know, buildings don't have bank accounts, right? So someone has to pay for those improvements. But what we're trying to do with the historic preservation facade grant is to really make sure we preserve the character of our downtown buildings. And if the current owners of them don't invest them, we could lose them, right? So we don't want to see that. So that's why we've kind of talked about structuring it where the changes, the clock doesn't necessarily reset, right? Let's say the RDC makes a large investment in a building, they max out their grant, they get $250,000 from the city to improve a building. That building is there for a long time, no matter who the owner is, right? So and at that point, if they've reached that cap, a new owner in the future couldn't come in and request that again. So that's kind of where I think we, from a city perspective, city staff side, we see the way it's structured is that we're trying to invest in the buildings, not necessarily the owner. I understand the concern. Yes, it's possible that someone could make a small investment in the building, reap a large windfall if they choose to sell it. But I would say at that point, though, we now have a new established value of that building, which at that point, it's in the TIF district, so then that isn't paying more property taxes back to us as well based on the assessor. Frankly, I think it's good if the building is sold and value goes up. So I do understand the concern. I think it's a partnership. It's something that a lot of times with developers, they're not trying, they see potentials in buildings. And that's why I think it's important for us to structure these, because frankly, some of the building owners may not have the financial capacity to do the big project that we want to see done. And they're doing the best that they can, and they make an improvement, and that gets it on someone's radar, which is great. And then they say, okay, well, I see the potential here, and I'm willing to invest an even larger amount of money in that. The city benefits because we see the preservation of that building and then the improvement of that going down. So that's why we really wanted to make sure we tied that the facade grant money is tied to the building, not necessarily the owner who originally applied for it.
I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yep.
Dick, do you have any comments?
Yeah, my only comment, I kind of agree with everybody on both sides. It's a tough issue to think about, because once we give a building owner, property owner enough money to do the improvements he wants to do, at that time he may not have plans to get rid of the building. But we don't know that John Doe drives into town and sees his building and his improvements and says, hey, I want your building, and what's it cost, and
Right.
he says, well, it's this much. And so, well, he's, okay, I write the check, and go. And, we can't really control that if that happens.
Right.
Yeah, we want to make sure that and the city's still going to benefit by the building being improved. Because once the building is improved, the assessed valuation is going to go up. So our taxes, tax rates won't go up, but the taxes on that facility will go up.
Correct.
So, we will still benefit. So I think our key goal needs to always be trying to make the improvement downtown, okay, and encourage the business owner to stay and make those improvements. The only real issue I have with our whole program is really basically the amount that the owner has to put into the program.
The shared level.
His share. I'm looking at the share, the breakdown of the share, and on the higher end, it's to me pretty reasonable. But when you get down there on the lower end, everything up to about, let's say 25 as a max, you know, $0 to $10,000, that guy's got nothing in the game. He's got no skin in the game, and I think everybody ought to have some skin in the game. And I think we need to look at these number breakdowns,
The owner share section.
the owner share. I'm okay with the roofing, the changes there, I'm okay with the others. But I think we need to look at what the owner share is, because we got to realize that the downtown businesses, you know, they get a lot for nothing downtown. You know, free parking and everything else, and their sidewalks are clean. They don't really clean the sidewalks like we do at home, you know, and so forth. And, you know, we take care of stuff like that the normal person has to take care of. So I think they really need to have a little more skin in the game to participate. And I think it's on the lower end, you know, the first 4 or 5 there. I
Sure.
don't think, I think the deeper you get into it, I think it works out all right. But I think we ought to look at the first 4 or 5 there that try to make sure they got some skin in the game.
So we did, admittedly, this is structured that way to make people a very attractive program for building owners. I think, you know, we tried to learn the lesson from before where we had, I think it was a 50-50 cost share, starting at $1 all the way up to whatever we budgeted, which fluctuated every year. But we really wanted to create an incentive for building owners to say, this is a really good deal, we want to invest in the buildings. Again, going back to the heart of the issue that we want to preserve these buildings as much as possible, irregardless of who the owner is, right?
Yeah.
You know, and if there's something that's really going wrong with a building, you know, let's say there's a, you know, we want them to be able to say, hey, we can apply for a facade program, get that resolved, and then, you know, maybe with that, you know, these buildings do require more tender love and care, right? You know, they're not as straightforward always. Sometimes you have to have a specialist preservationist, you know, work on these buildings. It's to kind of offset a little bit of that, and if they going through that process, they realize that maybe they don't have the financial capacity to cover the cost of that building, they can see what their other options are. But it also, in the meantime, it doesn't kind of fall down around them, so to speak. That's something we want to try to avoid, because with these historic buildings, you know, it's a very slippery slope. You know, you kind of cross a certain threshold and it can go bad very quickly if they're not maintained. So we wanted to kind of keep that threshold low to make sure there is an incentive to invest in it. Yes, it is not a lot of skin in the game, but it is something that helps us preserve our historic nature and historic fabric. It's something unique for Lebanon, right? No other downtown has our downtown collection of those buildings. That's something that's unique to us. So we want to try to preserve that historic fabric as much as possible. Unfortunately, I think we've seen cases where we've lost that because it hasn't been preserved. So.
Yeah, I think we can still make it attractive, but I still believe they need to have a little more skin in the game somewhere there.
And that's an ongoing discussion,
You know.
and you guys can decide that. Again, the
Yeah.
proposal tonight just is for the other two options.
Yeah.
But we can continue to tweak it. Again, this is a living document.
Yeah.
We tried to hear your feedback from before and make those adjustments, and we can always have to do that.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, do you have an idea of what kind of backlog there is for January and February? I know Derek mentioned there's some, but to what degree are they critical? And I guess where I'm going with this is if we table this to have all the commissioners' input and give us a chance to, what risk or what increased cost are we potentially looking at, either to us and or the owners?
I do know there are some that are strictly roofing changes that we would want to make a change before the end of the year. So starting January 1, are these roofing rules are in place for that? I can't speak the exact number, how many are waiting, but I know, again, it's had this desired effect. There is a lot of interest. There is a lot of people that want to see improvements in these buildings, that want to keep investing to preserve our historic downtown.
Okay. Do we want,
I mean,
we can, it is a living document and we can, from my understanding,
change that anytime.
make amendments and make it effective certain dates later in the year.
I mean, I'm okay with changing the roofing. I think that's
That's a good
thing
step,
to
but there might be
changed.
other steps we need to take.
And I think the separation of application to building. I mean, I think both of these are good. I just
Agreed.
think we all maybe have some other,
Additional items
Yes,
we may want to
additional
amend later. Okay. So in the interest of moving forward with these current amendments to this program, would you guys entertain a vote? Yeah?
I think I make a motion that we accept the current changes that we made and still allow us to go ahead and make some
Amendments throughout the next year?
some continued reviews to it and maybe get those to everybody to the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Is that your official motion?
That's my official motion.
Okay. I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you, guys. Next item on the agenda are claims. Did everybody receive a copy of the claims?
Make a motion, we pay claims?
second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. All passes. Okay. And I will hear a motion. Are there any other comments or questions from the commission? Nope. I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All passes. Thank you, guys.
I need for everybody.